Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bookaccino Live for November. It's November 9th. I don't know how we got to November 9th so quickly. I feel like I should be thinking turkey at this point. I do have a great idea of what I'm going to do for the table settings that my friend Kathy Desalou helped me make this weekend for a friend. We took a pumpkin, a white pumpkin, carved it out, stuck a container inside of it, and put flowers in it. So I will be sharing with you pictures of how that looks. It's amazing. So if you want some flower tip besides book tips, you've got them today. So let's get going on the presentation. Here. Your top picks from October were Never Meant to Meet You by Ali Frank and Asha Humans, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, John Irving, The Last Chairlift, Cormac McCarthy's The Passenger, and Sophie Hannah's Couple at the Table. So there you've got, these are the books that you picked that you're the most excited about. I was really thrilled to see Never Meant to Meet You there. Shared that with Ali and Asha. They were number one, especially since they're smaller authors. And it's their second book. And they were super excited to see that. And I've got an interview with them. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, it's a long one. We have a lot of laughs. So if you want something to you have out in the background while you're cooking or roaming around the house, turn on that interview. In answers to our survey question, after Bookaccino Live, what do you typically do? 56% reserve books at the library. 55% make a list of what you want to buy later. 49% make a list of what you want to get from the library later. 37% think about titles you want to share with your book group, and 10% pre-order the books that you want. Really interesting for us, great information for us to be sharing with publishers so that they know that after a presentation like this, we actually drive you to do something relating to the books. I want to bring to your attention the Booker Prize winner. It was The Seven Moons of Maya Almeida. And I just want to make sure to have this on your radar because a lot of you are always looking for the prizes. I know we put them up on the site each time when we see a big prize coming in. And Tom has places where these are compiled, but I wanted to get this on your radar as well. National Book Awards are next week, and I think there's a way to link on virtually to watch those. And if so, we'll be including that in the newsletter on Friday. So we know that you like to keep in touch with what's happening in the book world, besides just what we're sharing with you. So we're going to start with fiction today. First up is Flight by Lynn Steger Strong, and it's on sale this week. It's December 22nd, and siblings Henry, Kate, and Martin have converged with their spouses on Henry's house in upstate New York. This is the first Christmas the siblings are without their mother, the first not at their mother's Florida house. Over the course of the next 3 days, old resentments and instabilities arise in the siblings, with a gaggle of children afoot, attempt to perform familiar rituals, while also trying to decide what to do with their mother's house, their sole inheritance. The tensions rise and the whole group is forced to come together unexpectedly when a local mother and daughter need help. So there you've got Flight. If I was in that situation, I would be getting on a plane. That's how Flight would be happening for me. And Lily King said this is arresting and powerful. Next, we've got Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. And I know that he appeared on one of the morning shows this week, and I'm going to link to that in the newsletter on Friday. So what we've got is 16-year-old Frankie Brudge is determined to make it through yet another summer in Coalfield, Tennessee, where she meets Zeke, a talented artist. Romantic and creative sparks begin to fly, and when the two jointly make an unsigned poster shot with an enigmatic phrase, it becomes unforgettable to anyone who sees it. The Edge is a shanty town filled with gold seekers. We are a fugitive, and the law is skinny with hunger for us. Posters begin appearing everywhere, and people wonder what's behind them, and they start to panic. The rumors won't stop, and soon the mystery has dangerous repercussions. 20 years later, Frances Eleanor Budge gets a call that threatens to upend her carefully built life. A journalist named Maisie Brower is writing a story about the Coalfield Panic of 1996. Might Frances know something about that? So yeah, your past does come to haunt you. And these days, when everybody's got these footprints online that everybody can find them later, forget just walking around with the signs in the town. They're going to get you on anything later. You just watch. Be careful what you write. Next, we've got A Wish for Winter by Viola Shipman. It's coming out on November 15th. Despite losing her parents in a tragic accident just before her 14th Christmas, Susan Norcross had it better than most. Now a successful bookstore owner in a tight-knit Michigan lakeside community, she's facing 40, the same age as her mother when she died, and she can't help but see everything she hasn't achieved, including finding a love match of her own. To add to the pressure, everyone in her small town believes it's Susan's destiny to meet and marry a man dressed as Santa. That's a high bar for folks, just like her mother and her grandmother before it. So it seems cosmically unfair. The man she makes an instant connection with at an annual Santa run is lost in the crowd before she can get his name. What follows is Susan and her friends' hilarious and heartwarming search for the mystery Santa. So there you go. How to find a husband, folks. And she's only 40. I mean, seriously, what's 40? 40 was young. Next, we've got Cormac McCarthy's Stella Maris. Now, if you remember, we have The Passenger, one of the books that you picked as your favorite last month, one you most wanted to read. This is the second volume, and they purposely are publishing them back to back. So this is in the second volume. It's 1972 in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. 20-year-old Alicia Western, who has $40,000 in a plastic bag, admits herself to the hospital. A doctoral candidate in mathematics at the University of Chicago, Alicia has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and she does not want to talk about her brother Bobby. Instead, she contemplates the nature of madness, the human insistence on one common experience of the world. She recalls childhood. By the age of 7, her own grandmother feared for her. She surveys the intersection of physics and philosophy, and she introduces her cohorts, her chimeras, and the hallucinations that only she can see. All the while she grieves for Bobby, not quite dead, not quite hers. So there we've got Stella Maris. Next, we've got Ms. Demeanor. Clever, folks, isn't that? Ms. Demeanor by Eleanor Lippman. It's coming on December 27th. Jane Morgan is a valued member of her law firm, or was until a prudish neighbor, binoculars poised, observed her having sex on the roof of her New York City apartment building. Police are summoned, and a punishing judge sentenced her to 6 months of home confinement. With her now jobless and rootless, she's trapped at home. Life looks kind of bleak. Yes, her twin sister provides support and advice, but mostly of the unwelcome kind. When a doorman lets it slip that Jane isn't the only resident wearing an ankle monitor, strikes up a friendship with a fellow white-collar felon, Perry Salisbury. And she tries to adapt her life within the apartment walls. She discovers she hasn't heard the end of that tattletale neighbor whose past isn't as decorous as her 911 snitching would suggest. This book sounds like a romp of fun. Next, we're going to do some more historical fiction. Start out with Philippa Gregory's Dawnlands, which is on sale this week. It's 1685. England is on the brink of a renewed civil war against the Stuart kings. Many families are bitterly divided. Ned Ferryman cannot persuade his sister Eleanor that he is right to return from America with his polka knot slave, Rowan, to join the rebel army. Instead, Eleanor has been coaxed by the manipulative Livia to save the queen from the coming siege. The rewards are life-changing. Family could return to their beloved Tidelands, and Eleanor could rule where she was once lower than a servant. Eleanor's son Rob is determined to stay clear of the war, but when he and his nephews set out to free Ned from execution for treason and Rowan from a convict deportation to Barbados, they find themselves enmeshed in the creation of an imposter Prince of Wales, a surrogate baby to the Queen. So once again, you've got a big title from Philippa, the author of Tidelands and Dark Tides. Next, we've got Galatea, which is a short story by Madeline Miller. You know her as the author of The Song of Achilles. In ancient Greek, a skilled marble sculptor has been blessed by a goddess who has given his masterpiece, the most beautiful woman the town has ever seen, the gift of life. After marrying her, he expects Galatea to please him, be obedient, and humility personified. But she has desires of her own and yearns for independence. In a desperate bid by her obsessive husband to keep her under control, Galatea is locked away under constant supervision of doctors and nurses. But with a daughter to rescue, she's determined to break free, whatever the cost. Next, we've got Love and War in the Jewish Quarter by Dora Levy-Mosanin. I've known Dora for years. She's a beautiful writer, and she's one of those authors that kind of flies under the radar more than she should for the beauty of her writing. I absolutely think this is a stunning, stunning cover as well. So against the tumultuous background of World War II, Dr. Yaron finds himself caught in the thrall of the anti-Semitic governor general, the most powerful man in the country. Dr. Yaron falls in love with the governor general's defiant wife, Velvet, upending not only the life of the doctor's beloved daughter, but the entire community. In his quest to save everyone and everything he loves, Dr. Yaron will navigate the intersections of magic, science, lust, and treachery. His sole ally is the governor general's servant, an exotic eunuch who will do anything to aid his mistress in her dangerous quest to attain forbidden love. Next, we've got The Magic Kingdom, and we're not talking Disneyland here, folks, by Russell Banks, and it's on sale this week. In 1971, a property speculator named Harley Mann begins recording his life story onto a reel-to-reel machine. Remember reel-to-reel machines? Reflecting on his childhood of the early 20th century, he recounts that after his father's sudden death, the family migrated down to Florida's swampland, mere miles away from what would become Disney World, to join a community of Shakers. Led by Elder John, the colony devoted itself to labor, faith, and charity, rejecting all temptations that lay beyond the property. Though this way of life initially saved Harley and his family from complete ruin, when Harley began to fall in love with Sadie Pratt, a consumptive patient living on the grounds, his loyalty to the Shakers and the conservative worldview grew strained. As Harley dictates his story across more than half a century, the truth about Sadie, Elder John, and the Shakers comes to life. So there was a lot more happening down in the swampland compared to all those rides at Disney World, everybody. Make a note. Next, we've got All the Broken Places by John Boyne, which is coming on November 29th. 91-year-old Gretel Fernsby has lived in the same well-to-do mansion block in London for decades. She lives a quiet, comfortable life, despite her deeply disturbing dark past. She doesn't like to talk about her escape from Nazi Germany at age 12. She doesn't like to talk about the grim post-war years in France with her mother. Most of all, she doesn't want to talk about her father, who was the commandant of one of the Reich's most notorious extermination camps. Then a new family moves into the apartment below her, and in spite of herself, she can't help but strike up a friendship with the little boy, Henry, though his presence brings back memories she'd rather forget. And one night she witnesses a disturbing, violent argument between Henry's beautiful mother and his arrogant father, one that threatens Gretel's hard-won, self-contained existence. I think this is a beautiful cover. You may recognize John Boyne as the author of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is one of my favorite books. So hearing how he can render this story where he writes about a child so well will be really, really interesting. Got thrillers and mysteries. Starting with Michael Connolly. This is Desert Star, a Renee Ballard and Harry Bosch novel. It's on sale this week. A year has passed since LAPD Detective Renee Ballard quit the force in the face of misogyny, demoralization, and endless red tape. But after the chief of police himself tells her she can write her own ticket within the department, Ballard takes back her badge, leaving the Late Show to rebuild and lead the cold case unit at the elite robbery homicide division. For years, Harry Bosch has been working on a case that haunts him, the murder of an entire family by a psychopath who still walks free. Ballard made Bosch an offer, come volunteer as an investigator in her new open unsolved unit, and he can pursue his white whale with the resources of the LAPD behind him. First priority for Ballard is to clear the unsolved rape and murder of a 16-year-old girl. The decades-old case is essential to the councilman who is supporting reforming the unit and who could shutter it again. The victim was his sister. And when I picture reading about this, I've watched Harry Bosch, both when it was on Amazon and now the other, I can't remember what the other channel is, but it's another channel that is where you can watch streaming. And all I can picture is Harry Bosch in that beautiful home up on the hill as I'm sitting and reading about this. And I'm picturing him with this curmudgeonly kind of attitude, walking into the department and doing this. So it's interesting how I might have had a very different view if I hadn't watched the show. But now that character is completely ingrained in my brain. And that's something that, you don't really think about happening that much, but it does. Next, we've got The Last Party by Claire McIntosh. I am reading this right now. I am hoping to interview her next week, which is why you see that book reporter talks to down there. And here's the tagline for this book. At midnight, one of them is dead. By morning, all of them are suspects. On New Year's Eve, Reese Lloyd has a house full of guests. His vacation homes on Mirror Lake are a success, and he's generously invited the village to drink champagne with their wealthy new neighbors. But by midnight, Reese will be floating dead in the freezing waters of the lake. On New Year's Day, Fifon Morgan has a village full of suspects. The tiny community is her home, so the suspects are her neighbors, friends, and family, and she has her own secrets to protect. With a lie uncovered at every turn, soon the question isn't who wanted Reese dead, but who finally killed him. A lot of people out to get this guy. I also have realized that we drove down to South Carolina and back over the last couple of days. I will tell you that reading on a plane is easier than reading in a car. I'm going to leave it there. I could definitely immerse myself much more easily when I guess the radio's not playing, and I guess nobody was serving any drinks either. So like really much harder to read in the car. But really interesting book. I have not read Claire before, and she's definitely following. And I saw her speaking about this book a couple weeks ago. So looking forward to that interview, and keep getting this one on your radar. Next, we've got The Resemblance by Lauren Nossett, and I've got this in the other room, dying to read it. On a chilly November morning at the University of Georgia, a fraternity brother steps off a busy crosswalk and is struck dead by an oncoming car. More than a dozen witnesses all agree on two things. The driver looked identical to the victim, and he was smiling. Detective Marwick Kaplan is the first on the scene. An Athens native and the daughter of a UGA professor, she knows all but shameful histories, from the skull discovered under the foundations of Baldwin Hall to hushed-up murder-suicide in Waddell. But while investigating this hit and run, she will uncover more chilling secrets as she explores the sprawling, interconnected Greek system that entertains and delights the university's most elite and connected students. So there we've got The Resemblance. My father spent some years at the University of Georgia. It's really funny. Years ago, we went back to the school. And this is like probably 20 years after my father had been there. And he's like, this used to be there, and this used to be this. And I said, Dad, it's been like 20 years. It's not going to look the same. And I think he was very disappointed they just couldn't walk us all over the campus and show us everything the way he remembered it. But it was also kind of funny when I went back to Fordham with Greg, and the place where we used to have spring break, and they had bring these beer trucks on campus and everybody would party, was now dorms. So what can I say? Life changes. It all moves on. Next, we've got Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. It's a Betson Selections. Is Lisa Unger really at her best? What could be more restful than a weekend getaway with family and friends? An isolated luxury cabin in the woods, complete with spectacular views, a hot tub, and a personal chef. Hannah's loving and generous tech mogul brother found the listing online. The reviews are stellar. It's his birthday gift to Hannah and includes their spouses and another couple. The six friends need this trip, with good food, good company, and lots of R&R, far away from chatter and pressures of modern life. But the dreamy weekend, as you can just suspect, is about to turn into a nightmare. A deadly storm is brewing. Doesn't a deadly storm always brew? The rental host seems a little bit too present. Personal chef reveals that their beautiful house has a spine-tingling history, and the friends have their own complicated past with secrets that run blood deep. So there you've got The Secluded Cabin, which once again has our locked room kind of feeling to it, where everything's got to happen in one certain place. But oh boy, can these writers make it happen? And Lisa does it here. Next, we've got The Twist of the Knife by Anthony Horowitz. Reluctant author Anthony Horowitz tells ex-detective Daniel Hawthorne that after 3 books, he's splitting and their deal is over. Anthony's new play, a thriller called Mind Game, is about to open at the Vaudeville Theatre in London's West End. Not surprisingly, Hawthorne declines a ticket to the opening night. The play is panned by the critics. In particular, Sunday critic Margaret Throsby gives it a savage review, focusing particularly on the writing. The next day, Throsby is stabbed in the heart with an ornamental dagger, which turns out to belong to Anthony and has his fingerprints all over it. Anthony is arrested by an old enemy, Detective Inspector Kara Grunshaw. She still carries a grudge for her failure to solve the case described in the second Hawthorne adventure, The Sentence is Death, and she blames Anthony, and now she's out for revenge. So It's the Magpie Murders, the word is murder, and here we've got the sentence is death, the twist of the knife. They've got good plays on words there, folks. Next, we've got the Personal Assistant by Kimberly Mel. And you might remember Kimberly last year when we were doing our In Case You Missed It feature. You were able to win her backlist as well as her new title. Well, this one's coming out on November 29th. And once again, I think Kimberly's going to nail it. When Alex first began posting unscripted family moments and motivational messages online, she had no intention of becoming an influencer. Over at night, it seemed she'd amassed a huge following, and her hobby became a full-time job, one that was impossible to manage without her sharp as a tack personal assistant AC. But all the goodwill of her followers turns toxic when one controversial post goes viral in the worst possible way. Alex reaches out to AC for damage control, but her assistant has gone missing, and the police are looking for Alex and her husband for answers. As Alex digs into AC's identity and a woman is found murdered, she finds the greatest threat isn't online, but living in her own living room. So here we've got the personal assistant. I tell you, the way that everybody is all of a sudden becoming an influencer. Like some kid is sitting in their house and they're making tens of thousands of dollars by, I don't know, talking about whatever. It is absolutely crazy for somebody who came from a magazine world where in order to get anointed, you had to either look stunningly beautiful and end up on the cover, or be a really good writer, or actually have something to be written about. And now, I don't know, you can just get out there and sing or dance badly and you can become an influencer. I don't know. There's times where I think it's kind of crazy. I really have got to say it, folks. And you're never going to find me dancing on TikTok. Just going to say that. Next, we've got A World of Curiosities by Louise Penny. It's coming on November 29th. As the villagers of Three Pines prepare for a special celebration, Chief Inspector Armand Gamache and Jean-Guy Beauvoir find themselves increasingly worried. A young man and woman have reappeared in Suerte de Quebec, investigators' lives after many years. Two were young children when their troubled mother was murdered, leaving them damaged and shattered. Now they've arrived in Three Pines, but to what end? Gamache and Beauvoir's memories of the tragic case, the one that first brought them together, come rushing back. Did their mother's murder hurt them beyond repair? Have those terrible wounds buried for decades festered and now about to erupt? Got to see in the World of Curiosities. And a couple of weeks ago, we shared a link that the Three Pines is going to be a series that's going to be on Amazon starting in December. Tom Donadio, our editorial director, will put up the note of like when that series is starting to run. But just keep in mind, if you haven't read Louise Penny before, you may want to go back and start with book one and just get involved in the series, because she's really done a terrific job through the years of holding people's interest and making them interested. And it's really going to be fun to see how those books are imagined on the screen. But try to give it a read before you give it a watch. Next, we've got A Dangerous Business by Jane Smiley that's coming on December 6th. It's Monterey. It's 1851. Ever since her husband was killed in a bar fight, Eliza Ripple has been working in a brothel. Seemed like a better life, at least at first. The madam, Mrs. Parks, is kind. The men are relatively well behaved. And Eliza has attained what few women have, financial security. When the dead bodies of young women start appearing outside of town, darkness descends that she can't resist confronting. Side by side with her friend Jean, and inspired by her reading, especially by Edgar Allan Poe's Detective Dupin, Eliza pieces together an array of clues to try to catch the killer, all while juggling clients who begin to seem more and more suspicious. So there's the latest from Jane Smiley. Now we get some memoirs, biographies, and nonfiction. First, from Haruki I did this so well before, A Novelist as a Vocation by Haruki Murakami. It's on sale this week from Knopf. Aspiring writers and readers have long wondered where the mysterious novelist gets his ideas and what inspires his strangely surreal worlds. Will be fascinated by this engaging book from the internationally best-selling author. He shares with his readers his thoughts on the role of the novel in our society, his own origins as a writer, and his musings on the sparks of creativity that inspire other writers, artists, and musicians. Here are personal details of a life devoted to craft, the initial moment at a Yakult Swallows baseball game when he suddenly knew he could write a novel, the importance of memory, what he calls writer's mental chest of drawers, which sounds like really cool, just where you shelve your ideas, the necessity of loneliness, patience, and his long daily running routine, the seminal role a carrier pigeon played in his life, and more. So this would be really an interesting story about how somebody sees himself as a novelist as vocation. Got the Book of Days coming by Patti Smith on November 15th. 2018, without any plan or agenda for what might happen next, Patti Smith posted her first Instagram photo, her hand with a simple message, "Hello, everybody." Known for shooting with her beloved Land Camera 250, she started posting images from her phone, including portraits of her kids, her radiator, her boots, and her cat Cairo. Followers felt an immediate affinity to these miniature windows into Smith's world. Over time, a coherent story of a life devoted to art took shape, and more than 1 million followers, see once again, guys, that influencer thing, responded to her unique aesthetic in images that chart her passions, devotions, obsessions, and whims. Original to this book are vintage photographs, anniversary pearls, a mother's keychain, and her husband's most right guitar. Here, too, are photos from Smith's archives of life on and off the road, train stations, obscure cafes, a notebook always nearby. In wide-ranging yet intimate daily notations, she shares dispatches from her travels around the world. Next, we've got The Light We Carry, Overcoming in Uncertain Times by Michelle Obama, a very eagerly anticipated book by the industry. There is going to be a tour connected with this that is happening in large arenas, and I don't know if it's sold out at this point. I just remember seeing it like being announced. There may be no tidy solutions or pithy answers to life's big challenges, but Michelle Obama believes that we can all locate and lean on a set of tools to help us better navigate change and remain steady within flux. In The Light We Carry, she opens a frank and honest dialogue with readers, considering the questions many of us wrestle with. How do we build enduring and honest relationships? How can we discover strength and community inside our differences? What tools do we need to address feelings of self-doubt or helplessness? And what do we do when it all starts to feel like too much? Obama offers readers a series of fresh stories and insight reflections on change, challenge, and power, including her belief that when we light up for others, we can illuminate the richness and potential of the world around us, discovering deeper truths and new pathways for progress. So there we've got The Light We Carry. Next, we've got a book that I actually read a couple of weeks ago called No Filter, The Good, the Bad, and the Beautiful by Paulina Porzakova. And what's really interesting is I knew her years ago when she was modeling. I didn't know her. I just saw her a lot of times in the office, coming in for fittings for clothes. I knew she was a really big model right from the start. Got a bunch of books of Mademoiselle covers, Mademoiselle magazines upstairs in the attic where she's on the cover. Really, really beautiful face and really, really interesting person as I go and read this book. Anne Patrick gave it a really big quote down on the bottom where she says, the book about rare life, profound love, and profound love, profound grief. Hold on, let me move this. Anxiety, self-assurance, empowerment, aging, loss, and joy. It was interesting to me because it's written in small essays is basically what the whole book is comprised of, which is nice because it's something that you can take up and pick up and put down. And it's often really, really difficult to do that with a book, to be able to pick up and just finish something in a couple of pages and then go on. It's from Open Field, which is a new imprint that Maria Shriver has put together. So let me tell you what the story is about. Born in Cold War Czechoslovakia, Paulina Porzakova rose to prominence as a model, appearing in her first Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue cover in 1984. She was the face of Estee Lauder in 1989. She was one of the highest paid models in the world. When she was cast in the music video for the song Drive by the Cars, it was love at first sight for her and frontman Rick Ocasek. The decades would come to bring marriage, motherhood, a budding writing career, and later sadness, loneliness, isolation, and eventually divorce. Following her ex-husband's death and the revelation of a deep betrayal, she stunned her fans with a fierce vulnerability and disarming honesty as she let the whole world share in her experiences of being a woman that must start over again. And that was done online with pictures on Instagram, and where she was telling her story every day about what happened with her husband and starting over on her own. In these essays, she bears her soul and shares the lessons she's learned, often the hard way. And it's interesting because we always think of these people just as a pretty face, and then to see what goes on behind the face, the good, the bad, and the beautiful. So, and she doesn't filter anything out. She doesn't come off as the great person in all these stories as time goes on. But really, really, really interesting book. I'm going to try and interview her. Next, we've got number 1 is Walking, My Life in the Movies and Other Diversions by Steve Martin with drawings by Harry Bliss. And I say it like this because he is doing this as he's walking. I feel like that's how you would sound if you were walking. It's coming on November 15th. Never written about his career in the movies before. In number 1, Walking, he shares anecdotes from the sets of his beloved films, Father of the Bride, Roxanne, The Jerk, Three Amigos, and many more, bringing readers directly into his world. Shares charming tales of antics, moments of inspiration, and exploits with the likes of Paul McCartney, Diane Keaton, Robin Williams, and Chevy Chase, just a few of my famous friends. He details his 40 years in the movie biz, as well as his stand-up comedy, banjo playing, writing, and cartooning, all with his unparalleled wit. So you could just see, standing on the stage like this, Steve Martin, number 1 is Walking. Next, we've got The Queen, Her Life by Andrew Morton. You know that Andrew Morton has written about a number of celebrities. He's written definitely about the people in the Queen's life through the years. So here we're going to write out her life. Painfully shy, Elizabeth Windsor's personality was well suited to her youthful ambition of living quietly in the country, raising a family, and caring for her dogs and horses. But when her uncle, King Edward VII, abdicated, she became heir to the throne, embarking on a journey that would test her as a woman and queen. Ascending the throne at only 25, I think most of us can recite these facts at this point, seriously. This self-effacing monarch navigated endless setbacks, family conflict, and occasional triumphs through her 70 years as the Queen of England. Now in The Queen, renowned biographer Andrew Morton takes an in-depth look at Britain's longest reigning monarch, exploring the influence Queen Elizabeth had on both Britain and the rest of the world for most of the last century. And a number of us have realized there's a long time going to happen before a queen is running England again. There are a lot of men that are in a line in front of her, men and even little boys. So think about this. Oh, and by the way, The Crown starts tonight on Netflix for anybody who's managed to miss that is also happening. And yes, we know that everyone in England is upset about it, and there's lots of controversy about it. So that means we really have to watch it to give our own opinion. I mean, like, why should we trust everyone else? Next, we've got the Elizabeth Taylor, The Grit and the Glamour of an Icon. Okay, now I'm going to say the same thing that I said last month about the Paul Newman book. Paul Newman had beautiful blue eyes. Elizabeth Taylor has beautiful violet eyes. If you notice, his name on the cover in his book is in blue. And here, instead of her eyes being that beautiful violet color with a really close-up shot, we've got her name in purple or violet, okay? So I'm just showing you people, I noticed these little tiny things because this is the stuff that I've been trained to look at is the violet eyes. Okay, a magazine, we made them violet, now we make the type. Shows the yin yang of my life. It's by Kate Anderson Brower. It's on sale December 6th. No celebrity rivals Elizabeth Taylor's glamour and guts or her level of fame. In her first ever authorized biography of the Hollywood icon, Kate Anderson Brower reveals the world through Elizabeth's eyes. She uses Elizabeth's unpublished letters, diary entries, and off-record interview transcripts, as well as her interviews with 250 of her closest friends and family, to tell the full, unvarnished story of her remarkable career, her explosive private life that made headlines worldwide. Elizabeth Taylor captures this intelligent, empathetic, tenacious, volatile, and complex woman as never before. What does this tell you? Make sure that any diary entries, unpublished letters, and off-the-record video interview transcripts are way put away before anything happens to you, because you don't want anyone to be finding this information. All those emails you wrote, we're going to unearth your AOL. I'm telling you right now, we're going back there, folks. Next, we've got A Private Spy, The Letters of John Lecrae, edited by Tim Cornwell. This is coming also on December 6th. The never-before-seen correspondence of John Lecrae, one of the most important novelists of our generation, are collected in this beautiful volume. During his lifetime, he wrote numerous letters to writers, spies, politicians, artists, actors, and public figures. And this collection is a treasure trove, revealing the late author's humor, generosity, and wit, a side of him many readers have not previously seen. Again, those letters left behind, never before seen. Cleaning my desk later. Okay, now we've got some January and February titles to look forward to, because as we told you, November and December are really light on books coming out. There are a couple of reasons for this I've learned. Number one, if books are shipped to bookstores, usually that time of year, they're too busy to open them. So really, a lot of the big books ship before October so that people have time to ship them, to open the boxes, get them up on the shelves, and continue to sell them. So that's one thing. What's one reason this time of year is slow, and it's also because so many people have already decided what they're going to be buying, what they're going to be doing. So things are already in the stores. So this is definitely a slow time. We see a little bit coming out like towards the end of the year, but mostly now. If I'm talking to publishers, usually by mid-October, they're talking January and February to me. And my mailbox today even received some pitches for books that are coming out in May and June. So they've really turned the calendar by this time of year, and know that the buying season is in its height. The promotion season is low because there's not that much coming out towards the end of the year. So here's what we've got. Allegra Goodman has written Sam, and I'm dying to read this book. It's coming out on January 3rd. I love this cover. It's like completely arresting to me. I want to know who she is. Sam is 7 years old and living in Beverly, Massachusetts. She adores her father, though he isn't around much. Her mother struggles to make ends meet and never fails to remind Sam if she studies hard and acts responsibility, adulthood would be easy. But comfort and security are of little interest to Sam. She doesn't fit in at school, where the other girls have the right shade of blue jeans and don't question the rules. She doesn't care about jeans or rules. What she wants to do is climb. Hanging from the highest limbs of the tallest trees, scaling the side of a building, she feels free. As a teenager, she begins to doubt herself. She yearns to be noticed, even as she wants to disappear. When her climbing coach takes an interest in her, his attention is more complicated than she anticipated. And there we've got Sam. And I want to see the woman behind those eyes. And Allegra Goodman, always enjoyed things that she's written. I'm looking forward to seeing this one. Next, we've got The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. She's the best-selling author of The Wife Upstairs. It's coming on January 3rd. As kids, Emily and Jess were inseparable, but in their 30s, their bond has been strained. So when Jess suggests a trip to Italy, Emily jumps at the chance to reconnect with her best friend. Villa Lestis and Orvieto, and high-end holiday home now, but in 1974 was known as Villa Rosato, and it was rented for the summer by notorious rock star Noel Gordon. To reignite his creative spark, Noel invites up-and-coming musician Pierce Sheldon to join him, setting in motion a chain of events that ends in Pierce's brutal murder. As Emily digs into the villa's complicated history, she begins to think there might be more to the story of that fateful summer in 1974. That perhaps Pierce's murder wasn't just a tale of sex, drugs, and rock and roll gone wrong, but something more sinister. Yet the closeness that Emily gets to the truth, the more tension she feels developing between her and Jess. So there we've got The Villa with those gorgeous lemons on the cover. Okay, you're going to feel like you're going on vacation, folks. January, we'll be ready to go on vacation. Next, we've got The Deliers by Stephen Markley. And I've got to tell you, this book is really thick. I've got it in the other galley of it in the other room. It's coming on January 10th. In the first decades of the 21st century, the world is convulsing. Its governments mired in gridlock, while patient but unrelenting ecological crisis looms. America is in upheaval, battered by violent weather and extreme politics. In California in 2013, Tony Petrus, a scientist studying deposits of undersea methane, receives a death threat. His fate will become bound to a stunning cast of characters: a broken drug addict, a star advertising strategist, a neurodivergent mathematician, a cunning eco-terrorist, an actor turned religious zealot, and a brazen young activist named Kate Morris, who in the mountains of Wyoming begins a project that will alter the course of the decades to come. So there you've got this novel from the best-selling author of Ohio. Next, we've got Not Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. And you just know these people aren't going to be not so nice. I really like Mary's writing. She definitely pulls you right into a story right from the beginning. And here we've got this one coming on January 10th. Jake Hayes is missing. This much is certain. At first, his wife Nina thinks he's blowing off steam at a friend's house after their heated fight the night before. Then a day goes by, 2 days, 5 days. Jake's nowhere to be found. Lily Scott, Nina's friend and coworker, thinks she may have been the last to see Jake before he went missing. After Lily confesses everything to her husband, Christian, the two decide that nobody can find out what happened leading up to Jake's disappearance. especially not Nina. But Nina's out there looking for her husband, and she won't stop until the truth is discovered. So now, who is the nicest couple? Is it Jake and Nina? Is it Lily and her husband, Christian? We'll have to read and find out. Next, we've got Prince Harry. It's called Spare. It's the name that he never wanted to be called. This book is coming out on January 10th. It was ghostwritten by Joe Moninger, who many of you will remember as writing The Tender Bar. And that's not a secret, everybody. That was like, it came out like I'm not sharing secrets out of school, okay? It's the most searing images of the 20th century, two boys, two princes walking behind their mother's coffin as the world watched in sorrow and horror. As Diana, Princess of Wales, was laid to rest, billions wondered what the princess must be thinking and feeling and how their lives would play out from that point on. For Harry, this is that story at last. In raw, unflinching honesty, Spare is a landmark publication full of insight, revelation, self-examination, and hard-run wisdom about the external power of love over grief. This book has also got a lot of people in London and the palace really, really upset and nervous. It's got Harry wanting to make some changes to the book and talking about the Queen. And as a result, you're going to hear a lot about this book. So just remember, you heard it here, Spare, coming January 10th. There'll be a lot of news about this. Next, we've got the Medford Affair. Great cover, isn't it? Isn't that fabulous? Coming from Marie Benedict. And I know how much you all love Marie Benedict. I get notes all the time about you wanting to know what she's doing next. Well, here it is. It's coming out on January 17th. Between the world wars, the six Medford sisters, each more beautiful, brilliant, and eccentric than the next, dominate the English political, literary, and social scenes. Though they've weathered scandals before, the family falls into disarray when Diana divorces her wealthy husband to marry a fascist leader, and Unity follows her sister's lead all the way to Munich, inciting rumors that she's become Hitler's mistress. As the Nazis rise to power, novelist Nancy Mitford grows suspicious of her sister's constant visits to Germany and the high-ranking fascist company they keep. When she overhears alarming conversations and uncovers disquieting documents, Nancy must take excruciating choices as Great Britain goes to war with Germany. Sounds like it's going to be terrific. It sounds the way she brings historical fixtures to light, people that we really haven't heard that much about before. Really wonderful. Also, I saw an announcement that the next book that she's writing with her writing partner, Victoria Christopher Murray, is coming in June. And the cover was just announced the other day. So you keep that on your radar as well. I know a lot of you attended the event that we did with them a couple of weeks ago. Next, we've got Exiles by Jane Harper. It's coming on January 31st. Read Jane's last book and really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to see what happens in this one. Federal investigator Aaron Falk is on his way to a small town deep in the southern Australian wine country for the christening of an old friend's baby. The mystery follows him even on vacation. This weekend marks the 1-year anniversary of Kim Gillespie's disappearance. 1 year ago at a busy town festival, a warm spring night, Kim safely tucked her sleeping baby into her stroller, then vanished into the crowd, and no one's seen her since. Falk and his old buddy Racco can't leave the case alone. As Falk soaks up life in the lush valley, he's welcomed in the tight-knit circle of Kim's friends and loved ones, but the group may be more fractured than it seems. So there we've got Exiles. It's giving you a taste of what's coming next year. You can see why we're already excited about it. This is Mammy by Jessica George. It's coming on January 31st. It's fair to say that Maddie's life in London is far from rewarding. With a mother who spends most of her time in Ghana, yet still somehow manages to be overbearing, Maddie is the primary caretaker for her father, who suffers from advanced stage Parkinson's. At work, her boss is a nightmare, and Maddie is tired of always being the only Black person in every meeting. Her mom returns home from her latest trip to Ghana. Maddie leaps at the chance to get out of her family home and finally start living. A self-acknowledged late bloomer, she's ready to experience some important firsts, finding a flat share, saying yes to after-work drinks, pushing for more recognition in her career, and throwing herself into the bewildering world of internet dating. But it's not long before tragedy strikes, forcing Maddie to face the true nature of her unconventional family and the perils and rewards of putting her heart on the line. It's another stunning cover. I'm really looking forward to this one as well. From Pan Janoff, who always writes really terrific thrillers. She is the author of The Lost Girls of Paris. This one is called Codename Sapphire. It's 1942. Hannah Martel has narrowly escaped Nazi Germany after her fiancé was killed in a pogrom. When her ship bound for America is turned away at port, she has nowhere to go but to her cousin Lily, who lives with her family in Brussels. Fearful for her life, Hannah is desperate to get out of occupied Europe, but with no safe way to leave, she must return to the dangerous underground work she thought she had left behind. Seeking help, she joins the Sapphire line, secret resistance network led by a mysterious woman named Micheline and her enigmatic brother, Mateo. But when a grave mistake causes Lily's family to be arrested and slated for deportation to Auschwitz, Hannah finds herself torn between her loyalties. How much is Hannah willing to sacrifice to save the people she loves? If you remember in her last books, there was a woman that was living under the subway grates in Poland, and there's usually a lot of factual things that Pam has encountered during her life that she weaves into her books. So I'm looking forward to see what she's got going in this one, coming February 7th. Next, we've got The House of Deep by Sadiqa Johnson. I heard her speak about this book the other day, and there's a really interesting background to it. Her grandmother was actually 14 when she got pregnant with her mother, and she had her mother at 15. And for years, she was told that her mother was actually her aunt. And she didn't know, what was going on in her life. And so as a result, she was really spurred to write this story. It's coming out on February 7th. I absolutely loved her last book, The Yellow Wife. I'm looking forward to talking to her about this one as well. It's 1950s Philadelphia, and 15-year-old Ruby Pearsall is on track to become the first in her family to attend college, despite having a mother more interested in keeping a man than raising a family. But a taboo love affair threatens to pull her back down into poverty and desperation. Eleanor Quarles arrives in Washington, D.C. with ambition and secrets. When she meets William Pride at Howard University, they fall madly in love. But William hails from one of the D.C.'s elite, wealthy Black families, and his parents don't just let anyone into their fold. Eleanor hopes that a baby will make her finally feel at home in William's family and grant her the life she's been searching for. But having a baby and fitting in is easier than said and done. With their stories colliding in the most unexpected ways, Ruby and Eleanor will both make decisions that will shape the trajectory of their lives. I just love this cover. You just picture this woman walking with her suitcase and her shirtwaist dress. Next, we've got Victory City by Salman Rushdie. It's coming on February 7th. And all of you know how Salman Rushdie was very, very, very brutally attacked recently. I understand that he has lost use of his one eye, and I think part of the use of one of his arms. So terrifically sad to see that happen after all these years of being so protected. It's coming on February 7th. In the wake of an unimportant battle between two long-forgotten kingdoms in 14th century southern India, a 9-year-old girl has the defining encounter that will change the course of history. After witnessing the death of her mother, the grief-stricken Pampa Campan, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, Tom, she's the editorial director. I really think I get these names straight, and then I have to do them live. Pampa Campanana. I'm convinced I'm going to do this. Pampa Campana. Okay, somebody else can tell me later. Become the vessel for her namesake, the goddess Pampa, who begins to speak out of the girl's mouth. Granting her powers beyond Pampa's comprehension, the goddess tells her that she will be instrumental in the rise of a great city called Bisnagwa, Victory City, the wonder of the world. Over the next 250 years, Pampa's life becomes deeply interwoven with Bisnaga's, whispering Bisnaga and its citizens into existence. Pampa attempts to make good on the task that the goddess set for her, to give women equal agency in a patriarchal world. Let's see how that works out. It's One of Us by J.T. Ellison. It's coming on February 28th. Olivia Bender desperately wants to be a mother, but her fertility treatments at IVF keep failing. Just when she feels she's at her lowest point, the police deliver shocking news to Olivia and her husband, Park. DNA results show that Park's son is the prime suspect in a murder investigation. Olivia is relieved, knowing this is a mistake. The Benders don't have any children. And then a confession. Many years ago, he donated sperm to a clinic. He has no idea how many times it was sold or how many children he has sired. As the murder investigation goes deeper, more terrible truths come to light. With every revelation, Olivia must face the unthinkable. The man she married has fathered a killer. But can she hold that against him when she keeps such dark secrets of her own? So we know his secret, and now we got to find hers out. So it's one of us. Next, we got Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. I'm including this because I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Colleen Hoover and her huge success recently as a writer. Recently, she's been writing for 9 or 10 years. And all of a sudden, she was discovered by a bunch of people on TikTok that made her even bigger than she already was on her own. Her book that came out a couple of weeks ago from Atria sold 800,000 copies in one day, which was a record for the company. And I'm including this simply because it's an author you probably are hearing a lot about, and we want to include a title. This is, I believe, the first time that she's writing with someone else. In it, Charlie Winwood and Silas Nash have been best friends since they could walk. They've been in love since the age of 14, but as of this morning, they're complete strangers. Their first kiss, their first fight, the first moment they fell in love, every memory has vanished. And now Charlie and Silas must work together to uncover the truth about what happened to them and why. But even more they learn about the couple they used to be, the more they question why they were ever even together to begin with. Forgetting is terrifying, but remembering may be even worse. I believe this is the first time she's had a co-author. Maybe have to be corrected on that, but I think so. So there's the latest Colleen Hoover news. The woman who last time I looked, I think had 6 or 8 books on the New York Times trade paperback list. Definitely commercial fiction, definitely a lot for the Gen Z generation, but on your radar. Okay, here's some notable November, December paperback releases. We've got Cokie, A Wife Well Lived by Stephen Roberts. These Precious Days by Ann Patchess. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. You remember I showed you Rachel Hawkins earlier. This is the book before that. Got Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. We got some fun information about her coming up. And The Violent Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. This has got a very different cover. If you remember in hardcover, it had a red, maroonish cover. This is very, very different. We are also giving away copies of The Violent Conspiracy. It's our November and December. We're putting the 2 months together this month, at this time of year on readinggroupguides.com. Go out and tell us what your book group is reading, and you're entered to win one of 3 sets of 12 copies of The Violent Conspiracy. If you go out there in November and December, if you're reading books both months, got double the chance to win. It was like that double mint commercial, double the pleasure, double the fun. There you go. Violent Conspiracy. Just remember, real different cover. Take a look at that later on, because I like to see what happens. We like to show you what's happening in publishing as well. And when I saw this, I wouldn't have thought it was the same book. It's beautiful, but it's a very, very different cover from what you saw before, which was more classical. So these are my 36 Betson selections so far this year. The latest ones are Count the Ways, Mad Honey, and Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. I'll be writing about Count the Ways and Mad Honey this week, and I will be writing about Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 next week. If I stay on schedule, which Tom Donadio is going to hold me to, that's what will be happening. And I probably got a couple more books I'm going to pick for this year. Remember, at the end of the year, we run our Betson Selection contest, where someone gets to win all of these books and they get sent to their house. And then other groups of people will win parts of my collection, parts of the collection that I've put together. Oh, there's The Violent Conspiracy. You can see it. It's on the top, third one over. So here, let me do this. See that cover there? And then let me go back. Go back. Oops. See the yellow? And then let me go forward. Probably touch something. Hold on a second. Touch something. You have to do like this. Okay, hold up. Oops. Trying so hard, folks, to show you something, and my wife is just failing me right now. This little mouse. Let's see if I can do this. No. Okay. Violent Conspiracy. It's like if you touch the screen, it gets annoyed with you. I'm doing now. 1 second. Only going one way. Okay, this is what happens when I try to do something special. Okay, hold on. There's The Violent Conspiracy. Okay, so now you see what I'm talking about. That's on selections. We're also planning to hatch another contest that, if all goes well, is going to go up on the 18th. And we also build websites for authors. It's another side of our business. And a lot of those authors have newsletters and news to share with you. So we're going to put together a contest where you can sign up for the newsletters that you might not be familiar with, be familiar, make yourself more familiar with these authors, and also have a chance to win a big collection of books. And once, like this, smaller collections of books. We're still putting that together. Also, next Friday, if you are a book club leader, a librarian, or a bookseller, or a blogger that writes about books that work for book clubs, drop me a note and you can get invited. It's a trade-only event, which means it's not open to all consumers as well, though we will share the presentation later. It's a trade-only event where we're going to be doing, once again, our book reporter, our reading group guides event, where we share the books that are coming out over the next couple of months. So if you're interested, it's carol@bookreporter.com. Drop me a note, tell me what you do so you can get invited to that event. These are, oops, hold on. Gosh, I'm really doing this. Okay. We're going to also be offering our 24-hour contests on select days in November and December. First contest is going to be up next Tuesday. These are some of the books that we're going to be giving away: The Christmas Spirit, Marple, 12 New Mysteries, Our Missing Hearts, A Quilt for Christmas, and Wealth Management. So there's 5 books we've got right now. We will be adding more. And the first contest is going to kick off next Tuesday. Sign up for the Holiday Cheer newsletter so you never miss a contest, or check out on the site. Next big event is going to be with Charmaine Wilkerson. She's going to be discussing Black Cake with us for our Bookaccino Live book group event on Wednesday, November 30th. This will be the last Bookaccino Live event of the year, just as this is our last Bookaccino event of the year. And then in December, we're going to be doing something special. We are going to have our special Bookaccino Live evening event where our reviewers talk about their picks of 2022. So 13 of our book reporter reviewers will share their favorite books of the year, Tuesday, December 6th at 8 p.m. And sign up will be available for both this and for our next Bookaccino Live event, which will be happening where we'll be on January 11th. We're going to present titles happening from January 3rd through January 31st, and a peek ahead at February and March. So that's going to be Wednesday, January 11th at 2:00 in the afternoon. And that includes the big part of our presentation. Remember that we are going to be doing, giving you links to this later on, and we'll be getting you links to get invited to these extra events that we've just added onto our program. And we will then send those when we send the video and of this presentation. When we send the video at the same time, we'll have those links in it, so you can make sure to be up and be able to sign up. And also they'll be in the Book Reporter newsletter on Friday. So thank you everyone for joining us.